minute, millions of plastic bottles are purchased worldwide, yet only a fractions are ever truly recycled. But what if one simple consumer choice could help shift the future of sustainability? Today, on the sustainability side, we are joining by Jen Millard, CEO and co-founder of mainelove, a company challenging a single-use plastic culture through infinite recyclable aluminum package while building a sustainable driven business rooted in community innovation and impact. From scaling business across industries to launching a purpose driven brand in Maine, this conversation explores sustainability, entrepreneurship, consumer behavior, and what it truly takes to build a mission led company in today's world. So, before we start, let's have a small intro, then we'll go ahead.
Sing it loud, let's unite on the sustainability side. Feel the love day and night. Let's turn the tides, make a change today. Together we define our sustainable way with every step we take. We rise and glow on the sustainability side. Let the good vibes flow.
Jen, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
And I'm so honored to host you here, first of all. And as everybody knows, I'm Dr. Samah. Right now, I want to know who is Jen and how this idea happened with the main love.
I'm actually 12 generations Maine. So my family is like a very original family to New England and to America. Maine is a very emotional, connected place to myself. When I graduated from college in 1990 from Colby College, there were not a lot of jobs in Maine for women with brains. And so I was forced to sort of leave home, so to speak, to have a career and have a family. And so, kind of coming back to Maine with a call from Colby to serve on their board of trustees, decided if I'm coming home to Maine, let's do something meaningful for our state and for our people and the planet. And I think we can do all of those things. And so, the inspiration is really from I walked into a brewery one day and the equipment was silent. It wasn't working. And I asked the brewers there, boys, what are we making today? And they're like, Jen, we made all our beer today. Okay, what else are we making? Oh, Jen, we're not making anything else until somebody tells us to make something. Okay. And so there's 65 breweries that all use the same water source. I've walked over 45 of them. We now work with 4, and essentially the concept is to produce water in aluminum cans as an alternative to single-use plastic. So we use brewers, brewing equipment, and that's hence the can as the dominant pillar, and everyone knows how to recycle aluminum. Let's not ask people to learn how to recycle something new. So aluminum was a conscious choice, is honestly my only choice using the water sources I have with breweries.
What is a pickle? To some, it's just a condiment. To us, it is time captured, ancient herbal wisdom of the land, distilled in 100% pure ingredients. From the blood-purifying depth of bitter gourd to the restorative strength of the Pirandai stem, we bottle nature's boldest essence. This is not just pickle. This is tradition, purity. This is heritage, preserved, crafted by nature, perfected by time.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful narration. So, my first question to you, what's the defining moment that made you realize plastic consumption need a serious alternative?
So about 10 years ago, I was the CEO of a glass container company called Life Factory. And that was to remove plastic from your family's life, baby bottles, all the way to food storage, to barware, glasses. We sold that company to Thermos. It's still alive today. It is a beautiful product. I did return shareholder capital, but it wasn't a great exit. And I think it was 10 years too early. And I think if I were to relaunch that company today, it'd be a much different thesis because we've learned more about microplastics and about, sort of the early days of those discussions. And so this has been a personal thesis of mine for some time. I did Life Factory, which is a glass container. I've also worked on Liquid Death, and I've also worked on one other water brand. And so pulling all that history together, and seeing the opportunity that we have in Maine, where we have literally the best source of water in the United States. It is not filtered. It is sanitized with chloridamide and everything, with chemicals, but it is not filtered for physical solids before it gets to my house. So it is
Mm,
so clean that they're not filtering out any floaties that are in the lake. It just arrives at my home. So it is an infinitely replenishable water resource, and it is one of the best water resources for public drinking water in the United States. So much so that we have enough to share. So
yeah.
all these breweries that are struggling because alcohol consumption is down across the globe. And if you ask 100 Gen Zs what they'd like to drink, they will say water or seltzer water. And so we started making water in a can. I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary on June 4th. Company will be working 2 years, and we just crossed a year in market. And so this is to provide aluminum choices in hospitality, sports stadiums, sports teams. A lot of those places where you go for entertainment do not have an aluminum choice. You're forced to drink plastic. You're not given an option. And so really trying to provide it as a choice. We don't see it as we tell people what to do. That isn't our positioning. It's, all those conversations, PFAS, microplastics, all those things are all important and should be carried on. Plastic bottles, the discussion around, how lack of recycled they are and how many there are in the ocean and those places. This is best water in a easy to recycle vessel that is statistically recycled 70% over 45 days. Everyone knows how to recycle aluminum, and it's easy on rural communities, which is something that I've learned in the process, is that people think glass is an elevated experience. However, in my small town in Maine, there is a giant bin at our refuse area it waits to get filled with glass, and then they take it to New Jersey because there's only one furnace on the East Coast that can fire and recycle glass, and it's in New Jersey. So not only is the glass heavy, it is not recyclable in an easy fashion. A lot of it ends up in a landfill because people aren't recycling it. And then, the weight of the product, the actual physical weight adds more expense to ship around because it adds about a pound as it goes. So really focused on bringing an aluminum choice to market here. We are distributed in over 10 states now and have great sports alliances with soccer teams, predominantly women's soccer teams.
That's beautiful. First of all, congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank
And again, congratulations for crossing all the milestones. Of course, when it comes to sustainability and stuff, there might have been a lot of practical difficulties, but you did it anyway, and you showed what it takes to be a women leader. So I would say congratulations for that.
you.
And you also answered my question I was about to ask, like, why aluminum, but it was a beautiful explanation. I was having that in the back of my mind. Why not glass? Why aluminum? But yeah, you explained that in a very concise and beautiful way. So my next question will be like, many consumers still prioritize convenience over sustainability. This is a known fact. And how do we change that mindset? And do you have any case studies or any examples that you came across? Any lifetime moment you can share?
I think people believe themselves to be, if you ask 10 people, do you believe you practice sustainable practices at home or within your family? I think you would get a predominant, oh, of course, we recycle, we try to use less water, we try to, all the things that families can do. But I really think at that point of decisioning, I'm thirsty, I'm in a 7-Eleven, I'm in a store, I need to buy a sandwich and I'm going to buy a drink. That is either driven by, a conscious decision based on price and availability. So the first thing we have to solve for is if there is not an aluminum water at 7-Eleven, they don't even have a choice. So the first thing you have to solve for is accessibility. Will this retailer carry a choice? How do you know it won't work? You've never tried it. You just have plastic choices. So until you introduce an aluminum choice, you're really getting a skewed view of what people will buy. But I think in that moment of truth, oftentimes people's values are pushed aside for convenience or for price. And so I think what it becomes is the value statement of And you start to see this, I think, in the West a little bit, the status symbol of a Stanley Cup, for example. Right?
Yeah.
No one was worried about my hydration when I was 14. Like, we didn't carry
Yes.
around gallons of water in our Stanley Cup. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
how do you provide a solution when people are in the moment, an active moment where they need a water and they don't want to drink plastic? So, we have to solve the accessibility factor first. But until that time, and then of course, it will still roll down on price and on brand image. But I think people will be very proud to carry an aluminum can of water almost as a status symbol that I've got the memo. I know that's bad for me. You can continue to drink that if you like, but I'm making a personal choice for my own longevity and my health span, and I'm choosing aluminum. And I think it takes accessibility and more SKUs in market, not just from Maine Love, but from other companies to really get to that litmus test with the consumer.
That's really practical because I was having the same question again. Yeah, there are a lot of things available in the market, but the idea of carrying water in the aluminum is a choice that you're giving to the consumers. You're asking them a question: are you going to be a smart, consumer who prefers sustainability over you choosing a single-use plastic? So, how did you make this happen? Because I know it's very difficult to build a sustainability-driven company while remaining commercially competitive, as you're talking about Stanley Cups.
Yeah, water is a competitive category. I didn't have water in a can until about a year ago. Last May, we moved to our first distributor, and I vowed that we would not own any infrastructure. We don't own any factories. I don't own any trucks. I don't own any delivery mechanisms. So we use distributors as our primary method to get product to market. So it has taken a year to really get the major distributors really to engage that they're all hoping, hope is not a strategy, they're all hoping that alcohol will return and that occasion for alcohol will return. But I just got picked up by Southern Glaciers, which is the largest alcohol distributor in the United States. And so if Southern Glacier is now selling water, the tide is shifting very quickly. So you have the largest alcohol distributor leaning into a water thesis because people aren't drinking and they still need to move their trucks. So we try to take capacity in each of those trucks, right? If you actually do the sort of logistics crawl, every truck has room for extra product. We've done a great job getting our distributors to backhaul from Maine. So they come up with a full truck, do something else, taking it back. So really trying to live our values in how we operate the company, as well as how we position the product to the customer.
That's it takes a lot. I know it's not that easy kind of job. You are putting it like a simple, but I know it takes a lot to get it there.
It does.
It is a secret thing, right? Yeah.
Each state in the United States regulates drinking water. So that's ultimately 48 licenses if I wanted to go national. So we are focused on the East Coast seaboard from Maine to Florida, but I do have some pushes west. We are launching with Walmart.com this month and some other large retailers. So I think we'll have the option to provide a choice, to people that want to seek it.
I'm pretty sure people who are listening and watching us now they are eager to purchase this product, this wonderful product, soon to be in your Walmart, guys. Just a little patience. I believe Jen is working on that. So we are talking about this sustainable packaging. What are some of the biggest misconceptions consumers or customers have about recycling and this packaging sustainably?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't think customers have been well educated on what the recycling
Mhm.
processes are. So, if you've lived in multiple areas of the world or even in the United States, how people recycle in California versus how people recycle possibly in Florida, Chicago, or Maine are all different based on, single stream garbage, is it separated garbage? And so I think in the US we have done a poor job in municipalities of having our recycling be transparent so that consumers actually understand that that glass bottle that feels so great to buy is probably going to sit in a dumpster for 6 months before it ultimately gets thrown away. And so I think a lot of this lack of education is honestly due to what I would call big soda, big water, right? They want people to drink out of plastic. So
Yeah, yeah.
there's no incentive for them to educate or encourage or do more, I would say, because their equipment limits them to producing in plastic. So, everyone's always saying, Jen, are you worried that pick your brand is going to start making aluminum water? I hope so. I hope so. I think the thing that turns the tide is more brands making water in aluminum and making a commitment to reduce their plastic components. And with more choice will be more customer education, and the customer will follow.
It takes a lot to say this as a CEO perspective. You're talking about business, but here you are proving Jen as an environmentalist more than a business person.
The rising tides thesis, right? I want to create jobs. I want to create the best water for consumers, and it is hard work, and we have been working really hard. But we're just seeing the fruits come to bear as we move down into Massachusetts, down to Rhode Island, and down to Florida.
Hmm. It is you are making things casual. I know the hard work your team has been doing and you are doing behind it, and you are welcoming the competition with open arms. That is intriguing to me.
We need to be frenemies, and then actually your differentiation is what matters. Water is water until you compare two waters. So I want to be the best water, forest filtered water on shelf, and I welcome other water to compete in aluminum because most of it is municipal water that is repurposed. And I believe you're in Dubai. You do a lot of desalination and municipal repurposing, right?
We doing the worst of water. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the number one request I get for export is to Dubai or the UAE,
Yeah.
actually.
So that was the next question. When are you coming to Dubai? I'm waiting for Mimla to
Well, I
be.
just, honestly, the war sort of got in the way a little bit. I actually had an arrangement to sell quite a lot of water to the UAE. Let's let this Strait of Hormuz work its way out, and then we'll revisit that. But that impact is the difference of products moving in that direction. There's really no other way to deliver water to the port in Dubai or the port on the other side in Abu Dhabi. And so the insurance alone to actually put containers on the ship make it unaffordable.
I would say like we are waiting for you.
Yeah.
So welcome
Well,
to.
I believe the market is there. It's always been a lower alcohol consumption market. I've done a lot of work in the Dubai market for MasterCard, actually. And I love that part of the world. And I think that our products would do incredibly well there. They're, bright and vibrant and colorful and flavorful. It's really finding the right partner to work with on an import export basis. So if you have any suggestions, I'm all ears.
Definitely we will talk about it.
Course, always looking for investors as well, right? It takes capital to create beverages. So, also the way to accelerate export would be to entertain investment from your region. We'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I truly wish you best. As I'm pretty sure Dubai welcomes everyone with open arms when you have a great idea, which you do. You have a great plan, which you have a sustaining thing. And Dubai also gives a lot of importance to the sustainable practices. You are in the right market, I would say. So yeah, and as I was talking about consumerism and everything, people are aware, but the question is like, are they conscious? Are they still getting this greenwashing thing happening? Because a lot of businesses, to be very frank, follow this greenwashing to create a confusion. So how is this happening in your observation?
Right? They'd like to be better. I look at cruise ships, right, that claim that they're green. I can't imagine that any cruise ship would be green in our definitions, right? Um, I think greenwashing is a real concern, and I think consumers, younger consumers especially, are very quick to judge people based on how they live their values. And I think that how we live our values at Maine Love and how we bring what I consider the best water forward into the world to share is an important part of our sustainable mission, which is to bring great water to other parts of the world that don't have great water. And how do you make money doing that? being kind to the earth, being kind to your water source, right? We are fortunate in Maine that we have so much water, like of abundance, that we have plenty to share. Not all parts of the world or even in the United States have that privilege. So how do we retain our privilege with our values? How do we protect the lake? And it's really about trees for us because this is forest filtered water. So it takes about 10 years for the water to make it down a couple mountains through a couple rivers down to the lake. And it is passing underneath a wilderness of forest that is ultimately what makes the water so clean. And so it's really about our give back here is to land trusts that enable public access to private land so that the trees would be protected. And it's really about deforestation. Maine has the largest amount of forest. And so the reason why our water quality is better is because it's forest filtered water. Um, so when you were like, if I had three choices of Aquafina or Dasani in metal in an aluminum can, or a Maine Love or a Liquid Death, I'm probably going to choose the one that resonates with me. They're all water, right? So then you're choosing what represents my personal value. Do you want to carry a rebel skull? Are you a rebel and want to carry Liquid Death all day? Perfectly fine. It's aluminum. We love them. We're frenemies with them. Or, especially today in the world, I think people want love and harmony in any way, simpler time, nostalgia, right? And so, really, what we believe we're selling is Maine in a sip, of every can matters here.
Actually, you are reading my mind. I was about to ask you what makes mainland so different from these Aquafina apps and smart this kind of waters, but I believe you answered me already.
Really, all I do is remove the sanitation that the city puts in and revert the water to its natural pH state. We don't add anything to it. It's a very soft pH, like a 6.5 or so. It is natural, so it does adjust seasonally a little bit. But it is considered the gold standard of water for beer. And so if it was the gold standard of water for beer with 65 breweries, it should be the gold standard of water, period.
Yeah. So, what is the life of your product like?
There's a person who uses the same a company that uses the same can as us that claims that it would last 25 years as emergency water. That's probably true. It wouldn't taste great, but it's probably true. Um, want product to be moving off shelves, so we have a best by date of 2 years, and I wouldn't want to have any product in the market longer than 24 months.
It makes sense. It makes sense because it needs some time. End of the day, it's a water. Everything has expiry in this world, and you are reasonably given a good,
It is
argument.
It is pasteurized water, so it can be stored for some time. The thing that will make the aluminum degrade is actually light. So if you put it in
Mm,
a dark closet, a basement, something, it will last longer. Heat and light ruin all things, really.
that's beautiful. The final serious question from my end. What does the future of a sustainable consumer will look like, and what will be the customer choosing the products? Will it be circular economy innovation, or would it still go back to the traditions? In your vision, what does it look like to be the next 5 to 10 years?
I think it's moms and the power of moms. Moms want a better for you alternative to soda, to Gatorade, to sugary drinks. And so, for all the power in the world, the moms have the most power. And the moms are typically the CFO of the family, what gets consumed, what you do for entertainment, where you go. So, I think it's really rallying for the power of the mom and making sure the mom knows that there is an alternative to single use plastic. It is a choice. And then, candidly, the reason why I am moving product to walmart.com is to make it accessible. Not
Mm,
everyone's going to come to New Hampshire or Maine or Massachusetts, right? But
yeah.
I can open up a wider aperture with that type of marketplace. So I really think it comes down to the power of choice of moms, and that the next generation, the reason why we lean in so hard on women's soccer is because most girls start playing sports in the United States, playing soccer, likely globally playing sports, soccer. It is family entertainment. People still
Mm,
bring their entire family to watch soccer. And so our biggest impact is in stadiums, right? Where there isn't
mm.
a water alternative in aluminum. There's 55,000 people in the stadium. 20% of them are going to buy a water today, but they're probably going to get handed a plastic bottle where they screw off the cap and give it
Yeah,
to you
yeah,
because they're
yeah,
afraid that people
yeah.
are going to throw the cap, right? Versus offering even a choice in aluminum in those facilities. If 20% of 50,000 people choose, even if 10% of them choose an
Mm.
aluminum water, this isn't a war that's won in one swoop. This is a war won one can at a time.
That's true. It's a long-term process. Uh, yeah, that was my question because, like, in a long term, that's the real answer anyone will be like looking forward for. And I'm pretty sure all the moms listening and watching us are aware. Oh yeah, I want a goodness for my family, so they
Well,
choose the right product.
it's a better for you moment, right? So no sugar,
Mm.
no stabilizer. It's not only
Yeah.
greenwashing, but there's also, we have a sort of a health concern over a lot of carbonated beverages with, dyes and colors, So we work really hard to make the best pictures I get are of moms that are sharing their water with their kids. And it makes my day when people send them in from sporting arenas around the US.
That's really great. And first of all, you took your time to answer us. Congratulations on doing a lot. It takes a lot again to achieve this much and come to Dubai.
To do it, people often ask, you don't have to be brave. Doing it fearless is still as good. I mean, you have to just start and you have to just be brave. This is my fifth company. So I've built
Hmm.
four other companies, but it's a beautiful end to my career to build a values-based company that I'm epically proud of.
Yeah, so we have come to the end of our session. What we have now is a rapid fire. So, one word you would use to describe the future of sustainability.
Required.
Hmm, okay. A daily sustainable habit you never skip.
Don't run the water when you're brushing your teeth.
Okay, that's awesome.
I lived in California for 25 years and we had all kinds of water restrictions. So turning the water off and limiting your shower.
Yeah, it's a great one. So, what's harder, building a startup or changing consumer behavior?
Well, there's an old adage that you cannot change consumer behavior. You can only suggest adjustments to consumer behavior, and then consumers have to make their own choices, right? And so I think we sit at a moment where we have access to the most amount of data than we've ever had
Hmm,
in our lifetime, even on your own body with your own micro trackers. If you're wearing a Aura, if you're wearing a Whoop, whatever your measurement is. And I think healthy hydration. Most
hmm.
people are dehydrated. Most people are walking around dehydrated. Some people would choose to go without than to choose plastic, but often there's not a choice. So it is really about choice. You don't change consumer behavior unless you can make a reason for a consumer to change their behavior.
Okay, that's
Doing a
brilliant.
startup is hard. A startup is very hard, but I think also with great joy to see it come to life and to see consumers resonating with the product.
That's a great vision. So, a leader or an entrepreneur who inspires you?
That's a very good question. Ajay Banga, I would say, who was the
Mm-hmm.
former CEO of MasterCard. He is now head of the World Bank. I cannot think of a more loving human being to be head of the World Bank. And I'm so grateful to Ajay for his leadership.
Okay. One myth about sustainability you wish people stop believing.
I wish people would stop believing that glass is really being recycled. I wish people would stop believing that mixed recycling is getting separated somewhere else. It's
Hmm.
not. And I encourage people to get involved in their local communities on how recycling is actually working in their
Hmm.
community.
Hmm.
It does differ a little bit in the US, state by state. There is no federal kind of overreach around recycling. I think in areas, jurisdictions are just starting to eliminate single use plastic on ballot measures in the United States. So voters are saying that in our town, we don't want anything served in single use plastic. And you could look around Boston, there's Sudbury, there's 4 or 5 communities around the Boston market that have statutes that say we won't allow anyone to sell anything in plastic. And you go into a 7-Eleven, they have like one thing.
So I believe consumer awareness is very important here, right? It plays a major part. So yeah.
Correct.
So my next question: what's the one thing consumer can do today to reduce the?
I would say always tap water first, right?
Yeah.
We have lost trust in tap water in the United States, and it is a challenge. But anywhere you have potable drinking water, you should be supporting that local system and probably not buying a water from France. The other thing that we need to be conscious of is moving water around the globe in containers because it just weighs so much. It's like a logistic nightmare to move the weight, and it's not great on the earth. So we really try to make sure that we're doing everything possible to take capacity in every step of the way. So if there's an extra room on a truck for a pallet, if there's, we try to believe that we don't need to own any assets to make this company, and we're doing it. It's amazing to watch.
Now I'm getting a little curious. Continuing our rapid fire. What keeps you motivated during your dull business moment or slump of the tough, difficult times? What keeps you motivated?
My people. I have 8 employees here. That's a lot of responsibility to make sure I can make their payroll, make their benefits, right? And they're all very young. I have a very young team, which I thoroughly enjoy, but I think it's really focusing on them.
Beautiful. So my final question of this rapid fire round. If Main Love had one global message to the world, what it would be?
Drink more water from Maine.
That's lovely. That's lovely. And thank you so much. And you keep it light and you keep it happening. It was spontaneous. And thank you for doing that. It takes a lot to build a company, and you are keeping things sustainable. At the same time, giving awareness to the people, giving choice to the people. Educating is my thing. Now, what are you going to choose? That's the smart move, I would say. So, again, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing not only the mission behind the main lab, but also the deeper conversation that you had with us around sustainability, innovation, and responsible consumer choices. And everyone who is listening and watching us right now, sustainability is not only about the governments or the corporations. Sometimes it starts with everybody's choice. The simple choice that we make as a consumer. So if you love the episode today, make sure to follow the sustainability side and the main love. The links are in the description, and show your love in the Spotify, YouTube, and LinkedIn profiles. As a sustainability side, we are a growing platform. It's a networking platform. So you can join there and share this conversation with somebody who cares about sustainability or who cares about our future. Until next time, stay conscious, stay curious, keep building more sustainable future. It's on sustainability side.
Feel the joy lets you